Hello, everybody. Welcome to DFS Army's NBA Tournament Strategy Show. Today, we're going to look back at yesterday, talk about it, talk about what we did well, what we like, what we don't like, what went freaking terribly. And then after that, we'll dig into today's slate. It's a big 10 gamer, so we'll try to speed through it just because there's going to be a lot of stuff we just don't know yet. And then later today at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we will have the pre-lock show where we will talk about what we're doing, what our game plan is. I'll answer any questions that you all might have, and just make sure that we're good to go for the slate. We did pretty well yesterday, but that show for the pre-lock show is for VIP members only. To become a VIP member, you have to sign up in the description below. And feel free to use the promo code Bob, B-O-B, for a discount. After that, you can join our Discord, and I always post the pre-lock link video in the NBA Talk channel. So, yeah, that's basically everything. So, yeah, that's where we're at. Let's talk about yesterday. So, the nuts line was Luka Doncic, Terrence Mann, Trey Murphy, Draymond Green, Zubac, Shai, SGA, Aaron Wiggins, and DeAndre Ayton. What crushes my heart, this is a good thing. This is a good thing when this happens, but what crushes my heart is that all of those guys were in my player pool yesterday. That is just like, we didn't completely miss on anyone. How did I do yesterday? My best line hit 329.75, so I did okay. It was a fine day. But I already went back into the domination station on DFS Army, and I back tested yesterday. And we were on so many of these plays. When it came to Luka Doncic, we were on them. You guys saw on my lineups yesterday, my pre-lock show, that we had him. I had him at 70%. Some people had him higher. Totally fine. We were on Terrence Mann. We started going hot when that news, when the Kawhi Leonard news came out. We were going for Terrence Mann. Trey Murphy, you guys knew I was high on him. He was a core for me for most of the day. Draymond Green is the one guy I didn't boost. So on the pre-lock show, I boosted a lot of these guys in this lineup for the nuts line, but we didn't boost Draymond, but he was in the pool. Zubac was actually asked about on the podcast for the pre-lock show. I didn't boost Zubac. I really liked DeAndre Ayton and Porzingis yesterday, so I didn't boost Zubac, but we had exposure to him. SGA, we were on. He was on the leverage cheat sheet yesterday that I wrote up, and then also on the pre-lock show when that news broke that SGA was playing, I was like, okay, yeah, we definitely need to play him. I kind of wish we would have boosted him even more. Aaron Wiggins was also asked about on the pre-lock show. And he's someone that I said, like, yeah, he's in my player pool. I'll have some exposure to him, but we didn't boost him. It definitely would have helped if we did. And then, of course, last but not least, DeAndre Ayton was in the util spot, and we all know he freaking crushed. But yeah, Powell, when I was back testing, if I got rid of Powell, or even just lowered him to 50% instead of like close to 80 like I had him, if I got rid of Powell, if I boosted Draymond and Aaron Wiggins with the settings that I currently have, I would have taken it down. So I feel cautiously optimistic. Last night sucked because of Powell, but it was still a relatively good night. All right. Glad you're enjoying the videos. Man, really appreciate it. Let's look through some of these comments before we dig into the slate. Hey there, I am new to fantasy basketball. I have played fantasy football for years now in a head-to-head league. I can edit my lineups every day, and the team with most points wins at the end of the week. Okay, nice, nice. We're talking about DraftKings here. So daily fantasy is definitely something you should look into. Tattooed Freaka, the guy who I play fantasy football with in a league that I'm getting my ass kicked in, mentioned, I don't think it's an NBA player I've lost more respect for than Kawhi over the last few seasons. Yeah, I don't even think him and Kawhi Leonard and Kyrie Irving are the two guys that I've just lost complete respect for. Yeah, 8 and crushed. We were spot on with that one. Zubac, nice Joe. Yeah, glad I think you're probably the one who mentioned him. Glad he crushed for you, man. I don't have a number one core yet. Definitely on these larger slates, I have even um less strong opinions this early, but we'll look through it. Powell knows he's the chalk. The funny thing is though about Powell actually is on the pre-lock show. I was actually talking about Powell and I was like, yeah, he's kind of like PJ Tucker, first red flag. I was like, he the problem with him is that he sees a lot of minutes sometimes, but his usage rate is really, really low. And but what we're hoping for is that Paul George is going to be out. So Paul George's usage, hopefully some of that goes to Powell, and Marcus Morris is out. And so hopefully those minutes go to him, and hopefully some of that usage goes to him. I should have realized at that moment when we were describing kind of that situation that that was a miss. Um all right, yeah, we'll talk about Brunson some, Kenny. Dustin, I'm loving Jokic tonight. There's a boost where him or James puts up a triple double, and it's only plus 125. Nice. Yeah, the Clipper, you're so right, man. Like the Clippers value bust a lot. Um, but like we mentioned on this show yesterday, I think there's always some random pieces that come from it. I think Zubac wasn't completely random at 27% ownership. And neither was Terrence Mann once we had a little bit of injury news come in, but there's always a few pieces that slip in there. But let's go ahead and dig into this slate a little bit. Let's see what Army Man said. I need to know how to set up when you say 30 to 40 exposure. Um, for me, that more than likely, I'm talking about my um more than sorry, I totally blanked out there. More than likely, I'm talking about the exposure maxes uh for these specific players. So like I would change like 30 to 40%. I might put like a 30 to 40% men exposure here, or I might want to max it. It just kind of varies. Austin, you are so right, man. If we just like trust our gut and like go heavier or lighter a little bit more often, sometimes that's all it takes. Um, nice, 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 nice. Guys, stop making fun of me. That hurts. All right, guys, let's get back into the slate. Starting off with this Magic Cleveland game, it has one of the lower totals on the slate, so probably not going to be a game that we need to focus on too much. But we can already tell, like Franz Wagner, he's just been too cheap for a little bit too long for what he brings to the table. Looks like Kevin Love's gaining a little bit of interest. I'm gonna need to look into that. I haven't played Kevin Love in freaking forever. Donovan Mitchell is always interesting. Just as kind of like a stud play. What's the spread? Yeah, 8.5 is Cleveland should dominate the Magic here. So I wouldn't be shocked if this one gets ugly. Moving on to the Hawks Pistons game. Spread looks a little bit better at 229.5. So maybe a few more interesting pieces. Looks like Clint Capella might be a little bit too cheap at 5,500. Remember, ownership is going to change. It's still very early. Let's see. The thing about a lot of these Pistons guys is that a lot of their usage just kind of eats into each other a bit, and so they can be slightly harder to predict. So we'll talk about that later to see if there's anyone that we want to focus on. Um, Dustin, did you see that the Donovan Mitchell is the first Cavs player to score 30 points in his first games with the team, not LeBron? That's embarrassing. No, I didn't see that. But I think LeBron might be paying people off to keep that quiet because I have never heard of that, and that's insane. Uh, do you ever leave it at 99% and just keep editing your guys that way? Kenny, if I'm understanding you correctly, yeah, before I run the DS, uh, I think you'll see it now. It will say like you have to, well, A, you have to have more games checked, but B, you have to actually make changes to the players. Like you have to either like or dislike guys or change your exposure to them. Um, for me, I always just do 99 and change everyone's maximum exposure to 99% just so I can run the DS and see what's going on and who's popping and who's not popping. Again, I won't do that on here because this is the free show. We'll do that on the VIP show later on. But from there, once everyone's at 99, then I'll start to make my changes. So yeah, King, that's exactly what I do. So yeah, going back to this game, Clint Capella is probably the most interesting. Bogdanovich had a solid game the other day. Yeah, nice call, Justin, on Bogdanovich. Um, nice call on Bogdanovich because, like I said, with the Pistons game, people were trying to play like Cade, Ivy. I had both in my pool, but they just eat into each other too much when they're all healthy. It's tough. Austin Smith asked, dumb question. How did the Golden State Suns game do for Golden State? For the most part, it was irrelevant outside of Draymond Green and DeAndre Ayton. The game itself was really, really good in the third quarter. Then it kind of went to shit and got bad. But yeah, I mean, you just needed Draymond and Ayton. Outside of that, you didn't really need anybody else. Chris Paul was close and had a decent game, but you didn't need him. Same with Devin Booker, had a decent game, but you didn't need him. All right, moving on to the Sixers and Raptors game. Let's see. All right. This total is also the lowest. Well, this is the lowest total on the slate. Yeah, Fatal Fam. That is the best way of thinking about it. Like last night, I had a relatively high score, probably top 10, top 20 in most tournaments. But the thing is, we were one or two people off, and I always try to celebrate or at least recognize when I had like a top tier line because that's hard to do. It might not always be profitable, but you're still making top tier lines. So it's like, hey, don't get too down on yourself yet. It's just like making small adjustments until we do strike gold. It's pretty much the way I try to approach it. Don't get too high, don't get too low. I don't use any stacks. It's totally fine to load up on one game. The science behind it is similar to NFL. Is like, hey, if one game goes off, you go back to back, that game goes into overtime, you are going to crush. And yeah, like I've been in the top 10 like so many times where I end up moving up and taking something down, and sometimes I don't. The important thing is I've learned over time is just to try to keep a good medium. Like if I get too low and I'm like, oh, I'm just so bad at this, I need to change everything dramatically. I might not get close to winning again for like half the year. But if I just like keep a steady head, ride the wave, just know it's going to come at some point this season, it's all good. So yeah, this game, Scotty Barnes is questionable still. We will see if he actually plays. Um, Joel Embiid has been so iffy this season, really hard to freaking trust at this point. So We will see. I know he got in foul trouble a little bit. It just concerns me a little bit that he hasn't been as dominant as I would like for him to be. Instead, we've seen James Harden crushing. I don't think this will be a matchup that we have to force players into. Like, I don't think Siakam's going to be a guy that we have to play, or Embiid. I think Harden's probably slightly too cheap, where we could try to get a little bit of exposure. But we'll look into it a little bit later as well. I'm just not too impressed with this game. I think it's probably going to get more attention than it deserves, but never against it. Or I'm not going to try to talk you out of it at this point. Next up, we have Hornets Knicks. We also have a few questions that have come in. Austin asked, are you late swapping on failed lineups through the night or just let them ride? I think it depends on the contest you're in. If I'm like in a super small field GPP with maybe like 200 people in it and I have a lineup that's failing, then I will go in and make some changes. If I'm in a large GPP facing like 20,000 people or more, then I'm not going to change my lines because it doesn't matter. I'm not going to win that contest. I could cash. There's always an argument to be made to trying to get off the cash a little bit, make some pivots to try to just cash. But more often than not, I might just end up making lineups worse. And I don't know. For me, I tend to live by the philosophy of like, let's just see how these lineups work. I've already made them. If they're hot, let's just hope the rest of the lineup is hot. If it's cold, let's hope the rest of it switches. Unless I'm in some of those weird like high dollar GPP situations where it's like, all right, let's just try to cash here. Hardison is in play today, peeps. He has been solid so far this year, and his price is good. Those are Dustin's words. Haven't looked into it too much yet. I don't play multipliers personally, so I don't have a ton of context there. Alex said, always got to remember you're playing in contests where first place out of tens of thousands takes a huge majority of the money and only 20% of the field gets paid. Yeah, that's so true. Like, literally just like being in the top 1% is something that people should feel like some sort of like accomplishment for. But in DFS, even the top 1%, you're still probably not getting your money back. And so you still feel like you lost. It's fun because when you finally do hit that first place, it's an incredible feeling. But you have to try to just play around with getting close to it a few times beforehand. Yeah, agreed. You're definitely going to lose a lot in DFS. The important part is, like I said, just trying to stay positive through it because those wins matter. Mitchell or Lillard, I don't have a strong enough take yet, Dante. Dustin, you need to build a lineup like they do for NFL, but behind the wall. Yeah, we'll see. Kenny, so when you got takedowns, you never late swapped. Yeah, let me recall. For the ones that I'm recalling, no, I've never late swapped. No, actually, there was there was one. This wasn't like 100K takedown or anything, but there was like I think I got like $20,000 or $30,000 from one of these takedowns where someone we got injury news in the game, and then I late swapped off of like based off of injury news. I didn't late swap because the line was doing badly. So that was actually a really good question. That I didn't think about in that way. Anthony asked, stupid question. When you say Harden is cheap, can you explain what you mean? Harden's not cheap. Great question. He's had some great ceiling games recently where 9,600 might be a little too cheap for him potentially. Based off of this matchup, I think he's probably priced appropriately, to be honest with you. But just if all things are equal, then he probably should be priced a little bit closer to where Joel Embiid is at this point, just with how consistent he's been with his ceiling games. But that's just what I mean. It's not something. There will be times where we see like, oh, this guy is way too cheap, and then he's closer to being someone we want to play at like maybe 80%, but that's not Harden today. All right. Hornets game is a little bit more interesting than it probably would be normally, just because we have some injury news with who am I thinking? Rozier being out. Last time around, we saw Dennis Smith Jr. do well in this spot. Kelly Oubre do well. Mason, like honestly, a lot of the Hornets players stepped up last time out with their guys out. They were a little slow to get there, but they got there. Um, yeah, Dustin has a good point. If you're playing Siakam, keep an eye on Scotty Barnes' status. If Barnes is active, Siakam's value will go down, and that's definitely true. Yeah, that's definitely true. I wouldn't say it's as black and white as like if Barnes plays, don't play Siakam, because you definitely still can, but it does have an impact. It's like the other night when Brooks played, there is an impact on Bane, but it doesn't mean that it's going to necessarily impact him negatively enough to not crush. It's just something you should measure. Anthony Walker. So the green and fantasy points potential good play. Very, very true. Exactly. It's basically that easy. That's why there's people in all sports when it comes to daily fantasy who don't even watch the sport or the game. They literally can just filter out based on the math and say, hey, look, those are the good plays today. The thing that people like, I would say me and a lot of other really sharp guys who pay a little bit more attention can sometimes try to spot with the eye test of a guy who might be trending towards getting more minutes, or even from like a mathematical standpoint, you can still find some of those trending up guys as well. So yeah, bigs against Brooklyn. That's the thing. It really is. Bigs against Brooklyn and bigs against the Hornets have been things that people have been trying to do for a long time, and it usually works out for you. So like guys like Mitchell Robinson and where is Julius Randle? Like these are two guys that like are in ideal matchups. The thing is, Mitchell Robinson, his minutes are a little bit everywhere. And Julius Randle, we know he has ceiling game performances. He's probably going to be in play today, uh, but he's not projecting that well. So we're gonna want to dig into that a little bit. Next up we have Giannis and the Bucks against the Nets. This is an interesting game. From just like something that we want to watch. We want to like see this and see how it's going to go down. Uh, so I'm excited to see it. I don't think the Nets have anyone who's going to be able to stop Giannis. So Giannis is definitely going to be a popular play today. It's going to be fun. And at the same time, last time out, everyone was playing Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons was a strong play for me, but he ended up falling from like an ownership standpoint, just because there are other guys that end up liking more. This might be a good bounce back spot at lower ownership we might want to look into. So something to remember for later today. Kyrie Irving is also just always a high ceiling guy. I'm done chasing Kevin Durant, so that means he's probably going to go off today, guys. So don't say I didn't warn you. Next up, we have Pacers Bulls. With everybody healthy on the Bulls, I'm always just a lot less interested in the game. Vucevic, this is definitely popping off as like a ideal matchup for them. The Pacers in general just haven't been great defensively against bigs here recently, so he's someone we can look to target. Tyrese Halliburton has just been on fire lately. He's still been a little iffy, like kind of all over the place, but we'll see. Yeah, Vassell is out. So this is the first time in a long time the Spurs have been on a slate, and it looks like we're not going to play them. Freaking wild. Yeah, fun slate tonight, Taco. I know you guys like the larger slates. Yeah, I prefer my 3 to 6 gamers, but that's what Tuesdays and Thursdays are for. But it's all good. We get to watch basketball, so can't complain. Next up we have Spurs and Timberwolves. Literally, we were just talking about them with Vassell being out, that gives us value. Thankfully, you guys know I love my value plays. Keldon Johnson is pretty much the guy on this team, at least early on into the season. So I'm definitely going to want some exposure to him. He might even see, I'm sure he'll see more usage with Vassell out to some extent. Looks like we have Josh Richardson and Trey Jones really taking over for Vassell. And I think all of that makes complete sense. So it's going to be another slate of loading up on Spurs, which is always fun. Because we know there's just like the Clippers last night, there's guaranteed to be some surprises in there. So be careful. Be careful. All right, now we have the Jazz and the Rockets. I believe Sengun is out still. Fernando's out. Tate is questionable. Yep. Okay. Cool. He who will not be named is on this team still. That's good. I was kind of hoping he was going to be cut because I was sick and tired of Usman Garuba. As of right now, I don't think we're going to have to play him. But if he's starting again, we might have to. Is this the fun you were talking about, Taco? Is this the fun? Playing Usman Garuba again? Is this the fun you wanted for us? But yeah, we'll see. There's definitely some value if he ends up starting. But for the most part, I'll be looking at like Lauri Markkanen again. Are we really doing this? We got to. I think we're gonna have to go right back to Lauri Markkanen. Probably gonna have to go back and play some Kelly Olynyk as well. It's just strong spots for them. This is evil. If you think this is fun, Taco, this is evil. This is like forcing everyone to do what hurt them last time out and seeing who's willing to do it. Yeah, Alan, you're right. Like Vucevic is in a solid spot this slate as well. Looks like Russell Westbrook is going to be out. Looks like potentially he might be getting traded. That could make this a little interesting. I would love for Westbrook to go somewhere else. I just miss him being good, and I think he would be somewhere else. But with him being out, of course, that helps guys like Patrick Beverly, Kendrick Nunn. The value is there, which is why I think we're probably not going to have to play a ton of Spurs, because at the guard position, we also have value with the Lakers. So I think both are strong value options as of right now. So I'm not really overly concerned there. Jokic, I don't know. Nikola Jokic, I have a love for him. He helped us so much last year, but he's been iffy this year. I think I might end up creating a new philosophy that I'll probably talk about on the pre-lock show. I think there's something here that we can work with, but we'll get there. Taco, what do you want? What do you want us to talk about with the Memphis and Brooklyn game? We've already talked about it. We got there. Was there something gross about it? For me, it wasn't anything too special, unless you were super high on Ben. Dustin mentioned trading Westbrook to Cleveland. They have enough guards. I hope they're smart enough to know they don't need any more. Last game on the slate, the Hammer game, always a game I like to have a little bit of exposure to. Of course, like Josh Hart has been popping all season. Tyler Hero has actually just been good all season. It's hard to not play Hero when he's starting, and he's someone that I'm at least going to have exposure to. I don't know how much, but I like this spot for him. Portland hasn't been able to stop anybody all season. Okay, so that's what you guys are talking about. Brook Lopez, bigs against Brooklyn. I mean, Brook Lopez, he's a finicky player. His minutes can be a little volatile at times. So just someone to, watch out for. Yeah, we'll definitely have to look into him a little bit more. No, I'm a Hornets fan. Chance, don't put Westbrook on Hornets. Like, as a Hornets fan, I do not need him or that in my life. Need to rebuke that. Rebuking that. Dez, I wonder if Primo gets a boost with Vassal out. Yeah, I would not be surprised with that at all. We're gonna have to dig into it a little bit and see uh who's going to get the biggest boost there and who we actually want to play. But Primo's definitely going to see at least some sort of increase. Can we run it back with Mathurin? Mathurin's been so good so far that as of right now, I think it's okay, but we'll see later as well. Yep, Brooke Lopez, a revenge game. I love the narratives, Joe. Like, don't put that on me. Solid spot as well. AAO is projected to do well for Chicago tonight. We'll need to look at it. Okay, Chance. All right. I thought whenever people say like Russell Westbrook should go to the Hornets, they always say it with a smile on their face, like, hey, like that's some team I don't care about. So at least you said it and you understand the ramifications of it. So thank you for that. I guess. But yeah, basically this game's gonna be one that we want exposure to. Looks like Bam's price has come up a little bit, which is nice. We finally don't have to play him anymore, even though this matchup isn't that bad. I'm fine fading Kyle Lowry. Okay, I knew there were a few too many people in there. No one down lower that's super interesting. So yeah, we'll dig into this slate a bit more. We'll have a better grip on what we are planning to do for the pre-lock show, and then we can go from there. Definitely do keep bringing the ideas, guys. Like, keep bringing your thoughts and ideas. Like, a lot of them were on point yesterday. Hopefully, we can keep that energy going and vibe going for tomorrow. So I'll be back at 5:30 p.m. today on the pre-lock show. For those of you guys just turning in, you will have to be a VIP member. Check the description below to figure out how to do that. And then outside of that, good luck, guys. Look forward to seeing you guys later. Peace.